Hello, hello. Welcome back to the She Interviews. I'm your host, Jessica Parks, and today I am joined by my new friend, Kristine Contento Angell. Kristine, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm super excited to be talking to you. You have such a great story to share with our mamas as far as your mom and career journey goes. And let's just dive into it, shall we?
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. So Kristine and I recently just met again over Instagram, right? We actually met over our personal profile, probably some hashtags in common. I can't really remember, but I think you had maybe liked one of the posts that I had or something. And I took a look at Kristine's profile and I saw that she had some really cool stuff going on that I wanted her to share. So tell everyone a little bit. Let's start with the thing that really made me reach out to you. The fact that you're are you semi-pro or pro?
Pro. I'm a professional mountain biker.
Pro mountain biker. That is so cool. Tell us a little bit about your professional mountain biking.
So there are obviously a lot of different types of mountain bike racing and levels that you can race mountain bikes at. And over time, I slowly built up from the beginner entry level and worked my way up into the professional category. And now I have a professional license and I get to go to big races. Sometimes have international racers there, and it's really exciting. And it's awesome to line up against some of the absolute best racers in the world. I've raced against a couple of our Olympic nominations who are, we're super disappointed that the Olympics got postponed, but going to be rooting on those American nominations.
Yeah, that's so amazing. And you're sponsored too.
Yep, I have a number of sponsors.
That's fantastic. Are you allowed to talk about your sponsors?
Yeah, sure. So the bike brand Juliana, which is based out in Santa Cruz, California, is one of my sponsors, and a local bike shop here in my town, Pedal Montclair, does a whole ton of assistance for me. I mean, keeping my bikes running is like a huge task.
Yeah.
I'm not gentle on my mountain bikes, so they really get a lot of credit for keeping it running smooth.
Yeah, that is just a fantastic and amazing thing in itself, right? But that is something that is added on to you as a career mom, because you have a pretty amazing story just as a career mom as well. Like, it's busy to be a career mom, and then to be able to add something on like this, I think is kind of either outwardly or even secretly a part of every mom's dream, like to be able to be a mom, have a career, and then also be able to feed themselves with something that is just for them or just all about them. So tell us a little bit about how does that feel, and how does a mom be able to get into a position to achieve that?
So sports and mountain biking has always been like a really good outlet for me for my own personal sanity. And as a mom, especially initially, my kids were quite young. I have two kids. They're currently 13 and 15. And I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I do freelance web design. And when they were smaller, it was really intense. Like, they're so on top of you and needy 100% of the time.
Yeah.
That it was actually really good for me to go pursue a little bit of my hobby, because it gave my husband time to have to be with the kids. Well, or the kids have to be with them, really. He always wanted to be with them. But, given us together, the kids would always sort of gravitate towards climbing on me rather than on him. So it was really good for me to just be like, okay, I'm taking off and you got it handled, and the kids are going to rely on you for everything, and enjoy.
So when you were making this decision that you were going to go and do this as your outlet, did you feel like you had to ask permission of your husband or anyone else? Did you feel mom guilt, or did you feel like, hey, this is something that I need, and you knew that it was like a healthy and good thing to do?
It was a balance. Sometimes it felt a little guilty. A lot of times it felt like it was something I needed, and it was okay to go take a little bit of time for myself, especially because a lot of my friends were mountain bikers. So it was sort of like my social time.
Yeah.
But you definitely would get some of that mom guilt for sure.
Okay. And then when you would feel that mom guilt, what are some things that you did to overcome that? Because obviously you overcame it in a way that you afforded yourself enough time to get really good and now be a professional. So,
Yeah, one of the first things that I really had to do was assess exactly what order my priorities were in. So, if I had like a really important race coming up, especially once I turned pro, um, if I had a really important race coming up, like no matter what was required of that, like my kids' needs would come first. Now, on that note, they're going to ask for a lot more than are like the essentials. So
right.
you have to figure out like, is this a need that is like they're just milking my attention, or is this like this has to be addressed and this is a priority? But yeah, it was always family and then training and racing.
That is a really great point, because just to say, prioritize and not get a little bit more specific on discerning what is a need of my child right now and fulfilling that need versus a extra, because, right, the level of extra neediness where I need to also instill in them some independence.
It's a balance, 100%.
Yes. And I think that's something that us moms can have a hard time with sometimes, right?
Yes. Even like, but they're 13 and 15 now, and it's still a struggle.
How is the communication between you and your husband on topics like this and deciding, what's too much or what's not enough? And
we're really pretty open about it. I do try to make sure that he also has his outlet. He likes to ride motorcycles. So
okay.
he has either a weekend trip with his friends that's local, or he does, an annual really long trip for 4 or 5 days together with them.
Cool.
Try to keep it semi-balanced.
Okay, fantastic. And all right, so now we just talked about the mom pro bike world, but then we also need to like slip in, oh yeah, Kristine has a little bit of a career here. Like what about adding that in? Like does that come third in line, or
yeah, I mean, sometimes it'll come in second, but I do try to balance it between racing and working. You got to pay the bills. There's no way around that. But being freelance, I can take my laptop and, go to California and be in my hotel room waiting for, the course to open up to pre-ride, and I can work in wherever it is I am. So it's like the ideal work for being able to travel and race.
You've been a freelancer for a long time, right?
Yep. Since forever, really.
Forever.
Since 2002.
Okay, so you don't have that comparison of like the 9 to 5 corporate, or do you before that?
Not really. Before I was a freelancer, I worked at a university.
Okay, so did you always know that you wanted to work for yourself and have that flexibility?
Not really. No, I kind of got pregnant. We got pregnant kind of young, and somebody had to go out and get a real job. Like we didn't feel like adults, when we started having kids. So my husband stepped up and was like, okay, I'm going to get a real job. And I stayed home with them. I finished my master's, and then I immediately started freelancing.
Because when you got pregnant, you had a pretty, I would say, I'm trying to find the word that is happening in my brain and not in my mouth right now. You took a pretty sharp turn. Weren't you guys like traveling or something like that?
We were traveling all the time. We had been living in Australia. We were in Australia for 3 years, and then, I got pregnant. And, we decided to come back to the U.S. to be closer to family. Once you start having kids, you really feel that like you want to have a support system, at least in the same time zone.
How was that like a crazy mindset shift for you? Being able to be traveling, exploring another country together, and then all of a sudden just kind of having to totally shift, come home, change mindset about career. Like how was that for the two of you?
Yeah, it was a pretty big shift, but we both stepped up to our respective challenges.
Okay, so you guys were both like, this is happening, and there was no bucking. There was no like bucking of the turn of events.
Yeah, it was just another new adventure.
Okay, I love it. So you guys are pretty like, I don't want to say as the blows, but you just kind of head on with the changes.
We did. We just rolled with it and hoped that it would work out. Stayed positive, and things did. Things worked out.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I love to hear that because and I want more women to see examples of women kind of rolling with it, right? Like a few weeks ago I did an interview with my one of my childhood friends, Amanda. She's a surgeon and she's just finishing residency. So she's put so many years into schooling and getting ready for this big career, and she hasn't even finished with residency yet, and they're pregnant. And I asked her about her mind, her mindset, and just listening to her, just like I'm listening to you, it just makes me feel free, because she's like, we always just have the motto of, whatever will be type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, literally, we spent our last couple of pennies shipping our stuff back to the U.S. And I moved back in. We moved back in with my parents, which was like a little bit shocking, but that was pretty short lived, luckily. And then we started like adulting.
Adulting, I love that. Okay, so we started adulting. He got the real job, and you decided now you wanted to start the freelancing because you guys still needed extra income, or did you feel like you still needed to exercise some sort of like professional version of yourself in addition to stay-at-home mom?
It was probably a little combination of both, I guess. Mostly, I wanted to make sure I was bringing in some income because things were pretty tight, and we had moved to Queens, so city living is like every square inch costs money. I feel like no matter where you go or what you do, you have to always pay.
Right.
So yeah, I wanted to make sure I was contributing financially. And I definitely didn't want to like completely lose sight of my technical skills.
Yeah.
And keep working on those as well.
Okay, so you were able to, is it fair to say that you were able to find a work balance, mom, work comfort with your identity pretty early on, or did you struggle with this journey a little bit?
It was a struggle at first. So when we were in Queens and my kids were really young, I wasn't really doing much besides like a 20-minute jog. That was like my time, and that was kind of all I would take.
Yeah.
And then we moved out of the city when the kids were around 4, and I had a little more breathing room. We were a little closer to more woods, and I sort of reconnected by the kids would get stressed or they would get bickery or whatever it was that was happening, and I would take them hiking. And instantly, once we got like in nature, there's a little waterfall place that was a short hike that we could go to.
In South Orange?
Yeah, South Mountain.
Yep.
And they would just chill. They would just like really sort of center a lot better. And then I realized like, oh yeah, I really miss being in nature too. And so then I sort of reconnected with mountain biking.
That's fantastic. Maybe I should take up mountain biking because the first part I can relate to, right? So I have a 3-year-old, I have to remember, a 3-year-old, 5-year-old, and a 6-year-old. Same thing, right? They're bouncing off the walls. We go out to, we call it the dinosaur park. And, the trails and everything about it just calms them down.
It does.
Creates harmony between mom and children.
Yeah, in between them, each other as well. It's like a little magical potion to take them out into the woods.
Yes, 100%. And it's so funny. So my husband's a road biker. Like he does the triathlons and whatnot. And I'll go for a ride with him. I have a road bike and I'll go for a ride with him, but only with him because I'm scared to go by myself because like I'm afraid to get hit by a car. And last night he was asking me because he's always trying to encourage me to spend more time with myself, for myself, take care of myself. And I will admit that like at this point I am a little bit of a workaholic, but I think it's just because I love it. Like I love what I do. I love interviewing women. I love making this content so much. So my brain is like always moving, and he's always like, you have to go do something for yourself. So last night he's like, why don't you go for a ride by yourself? And I'm like, because I'm afraid of getting hit by a car. And now that we're talking about the mountain biking, I'm like, maybe I should take up the mountain biking, because didn't you tell me that at one point you were doing the road biking and then you switched because you got hurt or something? Or
Yeah. So when I first moved to New Jersey, one of my neighbors was an avid road cyclist, and so he kind of got me out, like riding longer distances and training a little bit. And I'm very competitive. Like I have that competitive streak. I really enjoy racing and competition. And so with him, I joined a couple races, like the one in Central Park, and we have a couple local ones at Branch Brook. And man, road racing is so dangerous. There's always ambulances at every race. They're always used. There's always crashes. And when you crash on a road bike, you're going so fast, and that asphalt is so unforgiving. And there's so many people that hit you and ride over you, and there's always broken stuff. So I broke my collarbone. I have, like, you can see this little bump here.
oh,
I broke a bunch of ribs over in Branch Brook Park, over in Newark.
At the same time, or is this multiple times?
So that was one race, the collarbone and the ribs, and then at another race up in New York, Batten Kill, I shattered my radial head on my arm and had to get a titanium replacement.
Wow, you're a tough mother.
And then I was like, I'm just going to do all my riding in the woods, because when I fall, it's my own fault. And it's softer when you hit grass and dirt. It gives a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I have not had any major broken anything mountain biking.
That's amazing. So, like, not only did it take you more than one race to hurt something, break something. You're like me, like I need a scraped knee and I'm done. I'm like, yep, no, that's not for me anymore. Scraped knee, see that? So that's awesome. All right. I need to take some lessons for you. I'm getting a little bit tougher. I'm going to make my husband watch this interview. But also, Carrie, when you watch this, remember what Kristine said about road biking being a little bit more dangerous. Okay, I am not crazy. All right, anyway.
No. 100% true.
All right, man. So that's awesome. So it took you a little bit of time to figure out the balance, kind of get a little bit of perspective, and then also, you also mentioned your kids being different ages. So I'm assuming it's also not only about mindset and perspective, but it's also about seasons of where we are with the age of our kids, right?
100%. Yep.
So you mentioned at about 4, things started letting you have more of a breath.
Yeah, I think so. There was a lot less constant care that had to be taken. Yeah. Once they start to get a little more independent, and the more independent they get, the more I can focus more on work, more on training, more on everything else.
So what is the biggest thing that you learned in your work mom journey that you want other moms to learn, that you wish you learned sooner than later, that you'd want moms to know about, be aware of?
It's everyone is struggling. Like, everyone is going through challenges all the time. It's so difficult. It's so challenging to balance everything and to be a mom and to take that identity on or have it thrust on you. And it's okay. It's okay. You will survive through it. You will get through it, and you don't have to do it alone. Like, talk to people, talk to your family, talk to friends, talk to other moms. People can relate, and everyone will be happy to listen and happy to talk to you and encourage you. And sometimes, like, you really need that positive feedback.
And never be fooled that you have everything figured out, right? Because once you think you got it figured out, something else new happens that you have to deal with, because you actually just got a new challenge that you're dealing with as of late, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So in May, this past year, I woke up with a stomach ache and ended up in the hospital, and they found 8-centimeter tumor that's cancer. And so they had to take that out, and now I'm on a targeted therapy pill to make sure that there's no loose cancer cells spreading, floating around my system.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a lot of doctor's appointments and a lot of scans, and it's like at first it's such an emotional roller coaster. I've never experienced so much emotional turmoil, like constantly. Every time you think you have things figured out, you go to the next scan or the next doctor's appointment or whatever it is, and they tell you something that just like blows your mind and shatters everything you'd sort of like acclimated to.
Right.
And then you have to go through this process again of like, what does this mean? And what does this impact? And what do I have to do? And it just over and over and over again. It's kind of like settled. I feel like now I'm about 3.5 months out.
Yeah.
So things are a little bit more, I don't know, less turbulent, but it's still like, it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge.
It's only been 3 months. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, 3 months goes by in the blink of the eye. So something so life altering, I don't think I would expect you to adjust or figure it out in 3 months. So, but how did you feel? Okay. I don't know if this is a fair question to ask, but could you look back to remember what kind of mindset you were in about life, maybe the week before or the day before you got that stomach ache that you got diagnosed?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Yeah, like just in life, like usually we have a tone about how we're feeling in life. Feeling content, feeling, making plans for things. Like what was going on that week before?
Yeah, you know what? I sort of felt like I was functioning at like maximum capacity. I was so busy every moment, and I was so involved in so many different, I coach a mountain bike team, and I'm a Girl Scout troop leader, and work, and the amount of work I was taking on, and the amount of training I was doing, and like the number of races that were on my race schedule. I was like, every single thing in my life that I could do, I was like maxed out. Every last moment was accounted for, and no matter what would come up, I'd take it on and I'd fit it in somehow.
Were you always like that?
I think so. I think I have that, like, yeah, I like to be doing things. I find I'm more productive when I have like a busy schedule, because I have to get things done. Like I got to get this done here and this done there. And if I know I don't have a lot going on, I can kind of like procrastinate.
Yeah. Well, they say, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. They'll figure out how to get it done.
Totally. So the cancer diagnosis definitely has shifted that mindset, where it's like, I just can't function at that level. There's no way, no how. And I don't even want to. Like, in order to deal with that stuff, the cancer stuff, I have to have space. I have to have breathing room.
So how have you decompressed your schedule, or how have you changed things to be in this new arena that you're in right now?
Yeah. So interestingly, the COVID pandemic stuff actually helped, like the month, that started a month or two beforehand, and it sort of eliminated a lot of the in-person activities I was doing with the mountain bike team and the Girl Scout troop. So that was like, I already had a little bit more space when this happened. But now, like, I don't take on every work project that comes my way. I don't have that, like, I don't know. I have to mindset about it, and I assess, and it's also made me value my time more. So if somebody wants to lowball me on a project, I'm not going to bother, because I would rather save that time for something that I prioritize a little more, either a higher paying client, or my family, or mountain biking, or just something that makes me happy.
So, and could you say in some ways this experience has helped empower you to make some, I don't want to say better decisions, because I'm not trying to say that you were making bad decisions, but maybe some decisions where you're like, man, maybe you started to realize, like, I wasn't always putting my health above everything, or I wasn't always making the right decision for myself when it came to clients.
Like, yeah, definitely. It's definitely helped.
Well, at least that's good. I mean, this sucks, and I'm sorry that you're going through that, but I'm happy to hear you through your journey being able to make these mindset shifts about making decisions with these things. And that actually leads me into asking you about the next thing that we just talked about briefly before we started recording, as far as some advice that you can give to moms as far as like work-life balance. And you had kind of listed things more pertaining to the changes that you made with how you deal with work stuff. It had more to do with how you changed dealing with work stuff than it did how you changed dealing with kid stuff. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my biggest piece of advice, especially with the recent cancer diagnosis, is to talk to other people. I can't tell you, like, normally I'm pretty private, and I'm sort of private with my personal life and my health on social media and stuff. And I've just been sharing it. Like, it's so hard. I find it, for me personally, I find it really helpful to talk about my health diagnosis and what other people have been through. And I can't tell you how many other people who have had cancer have reached out to me privately and said, oh, I wish I had talked about it. I went through something similar a few years ago, and I didn't tell anyone because I didn't feel like my cancer was bad enough. I didn't have to go through chemo. I didn't have to do that. So I didn't feel like I could share. And they really felt like it was the wrong thing to do, like keeping all that bottled up and not sharing and talking to other people about it. And I mean, it's helped me immensely, and it's like surprising to see myself be so open about it, but it's really helpful. And I think that mindset applies to a lot of different challenges that people face, whether it's like depression or anxiety or, postpartum, or, just feeling like a bad mom or anything. It can really help so much to talk to other people about it, because we're not alone. We're really not alone.
Thank you for that wonderful commercial for the She interviews, because that is what this is all about, right? Like being able to hear other moms' journeys and what they've gone through, so that we can relate to, the moments that we've felt ashamed, or the moments that we felt like we were afraid to make decisions because we were going to make the wrong one. And, then we hear someone else's story and we're like, man, I feel better now. Like, I'm not alone. And it's empowering. So I'm very happy to hear everything that you just said, as far as like, really feeling like you needed to be public with your journey through your cancer diagnosis. Again, it sucks, but I love your mindset and outlook and everything that you're sharing with us. And I thank you for that so much.
Thank you.
So let's see, we talked about career path. We talked about becoming a pro biker. We talked about the cancer diagnosis. So where are you right now? I guess mentally, right? Because now this is kind of changed the way that you look at life, and between COVID and between your diagnosis and kind of like the things that you had going on in your life before, do you feel like you're heading for a little bit, or even maybe a big shift in future goals, or what you see in the next, I don't know, say 3 to 5 years for where you're heading?
Yeah, I definitely feel like I'm going to hang on to the space I have, and rather than, I really am not going to fill everything back up, and I don't have to do everything for everyone all the time. So that's a huge change for me personally. It'll probably take me a little while to still get used to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely going to be up there high on the priority list, is to make sure that I'm not overbooking myself. But we're slowly getting back into everything. Our mountain bike team has started practices again, but like, I don't have to be at every practice like I was before. I can just be at the ones that I select to go to. And our Girl Scout troop is going to start up again, and I'm going to make sure that those events are things that I really need to be there for. you know?
Yeah, because this was also the mountain bike team. That was also something that you were doing with your kids as well, right? They were involved in that.
Yeah, it's really nice when like your passion and your hobbies and your family time can overlap a little bit.
100%.
Both of my kids ride bikes, and I coach a team that has 6th to 12th graders on it. So both of my kids are old enough to be on the team. And yeah, it's fun. It's fun to be able to go to practice and have them there. Although I have to say, you can't really be a coach and a mom at the same time. It's always really good to have the other coaches coach my kids, because you know, kids interact with their parent much differently than they interact with a different authority figure.
100%. But even just still being able to be in that same space and them getting to see you still get to act as a role model, even though you're not maybe working like hands-on.
Right. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, man, I think we covered like all the bases up to now, right?
Yeah, it was a lot.
It was this week. That's my thing about these interviews. They're usually about 30 minutes, and I try to squeeze like everything in about all the turning points of mom and career, but it's all good. You know, I definitely think that we were able to shine some very shiny gems of yours for the audience. And how can people get in touch with you if they have questions about, work, mom life balance, becoming a pro biker, making time? You know what? It was a question that I had for you before that I didn't ask. What do you suggest is an appropriate amount of time for a mom to carve out for herself for self-care?
Oh, you definitely want to be doing at least an hour a day, I feel like. And on the weekends, I would do a little bit more, you know. Now, maybe like you get a couple hours on Saturday and your husband or your partner gets a couple hours on Sunday, or however you want to divide it up. But yeah, you could definitely do, I could definitely do an hour a day.
I love that. And I'm asking that question because I actually just interviewed another woman, another mom earlier in the week. And she told me that at first she was doing one whole day a month. And then she switched it to one day a week. And I was like, wow, you go, girl. And you're another mom that has really not been afraid to say, I need time for myself. And I think that's something that moms struggle with. So I just kind of wanted to see, you know, as far as like, what does that really mean? Is that 10 minutes a day? Is it an hour a day? And so both of you have given me answers where they're both generous amount of time.
Yeah.
And I love that. So ladies, give yourself permission to do that. It's needed.
Yes. Oh, it keeps everybody happy.
For sure.
You're a better mom. You're a better mom when you have more patience and more groundedness and you're not like frizzed out.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my gosh, Kristine, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. I love all the things that I learned about you. It's definitely inspired me and helped me to actually make some changes for the things that I'm doing. So thank you so much.
Sure. Yeah. If you want to go mountain biking, let me know.
I got to get a mountain bike. Do you have an extra one for me?
I do. I could.
All right, you're on. Take me. I would love to go. So maybe what we do is we can go for a ride and take some pictures and post them for the She interview, so they can see that I'm getting out of my my workaholic status because of Kristine here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We will see you next time on the She interviews.
Bye. Thanks.